Hello everyone, I'm Khalid and I'll be your instructor for this Python course provided by Learning While Practicing. In this video, we'll start going into some Python code and start writing some actually interesting statements and see what happens. So let's get started. So as we described in the previous video, I have just created a new project and created a new Python file in here so that we're ready to go and start writing our code. So we can start writing code in this space. So the first thing that we need to start with is to define variables. So what is a variable? A variable in any programming language is some location in memory that stores some specific value. And this value could change over the course of the program over and over again. So in order to define a variable in Python, it's very simple actually. Let's say that we need to store the value of 5 in some memory location. In order to do this, we need to name this memory location. We need to have some identifier in order to reference this memory location. So let's say that we name this as x, and then we just say x equals to 5. That's it. Here we have defined a variable called x, and this variable is a space in memory or a name for a space in memory that contains the value of 5. As you can see here, we don't need to specify any kind of type for the variable. Once we have assigned this variable x a value of 5, the Python interpreter automatically identifies this variable as an integer. So in order to see that, let's print the type of the variable. And in order to find the type of some variable, just type and x. So we run this. We can run, as mentioned before, we just click run, then elementary, and then we can find here that the type of this variable is an integer. Okay, sounds good. We can have also some other kinds of variables. Let's say that we have a string like the one we printed last time, hello world. So here we have defined a variable called y, and we have assigned the value of hello world to y. So as we can see here, this is a string. It means words, sentences, or few characters. And they are now stored at the memory location identified by the variable y. We can, of course, print y as we did before. We can run. We can just hit Control Shift and F10, and it prints hello world. We can also find out the type of this y variable. So print type of y. Let's see what would be the result here. And we can find here that the result is a string. So str is a string. Okay. Another interesting type of variables is the floating point variables. So let's say you have a variable called z, and this z is just 2.5. In order to store numbers like 2.5, some integer, and a fractional part, we need some kind of variables called floats. So if we look at the type of this variable z, we can find that is defined as float. So a float variable is some numeric value that has both an integer and a fractional part. Okay, so we have also some other interesting kind of variables called the bool value. So if we have, let's say, variable t, and we set it to false, and print type of t, run, we can find that t here is a bool. So a bool variable or a Boolean variable is some variable that can take either the value of true or false. So either 1 or 0. It's very useful in some kind of application like flags. We'll see that later in the course. And this could be assigned either value of false or true. We'll also see later how we could store the result of some comparison operation into some Boolean variable. And you need to notice here that false here has a capital F, and it's not enclosed by double quotes or single quotes. It's just false. This is a keyword in Python that has the value false. So this is the Boolean value false. We can also set it to true if we want to. And if we return the type, we still have the type true. Okay, sounds interesting. Let's look at some of the operation that we can do on variables. So let's look at the easy one. Let's look at the addition. So we have here x is 5 and z is 2.5. Let's do x plus z and just print out what would be the value of that. So the value is 7.5 as you would expect. So this is the basic mathematical operation. If we want to do multiplication here and run, so here's the multiplication value. Let's have another variable. Let's say it's say f, for example, and this value of f is 15. And let's say that let's reassign O to be 2. And we need to do some division. So we print f slash O. So the slash here is the division operation. And we run. Okay, so it's 7.5 because 15 over 2 is 7.5. So this is the real division operator. So it just divides these two numbers and just get the floating point value of that. If you want to just get the integer part of it, we have some other operator, which is double slash. And if we do double slash in here, we can get only 7, only the integer part of the division. Okay, let's move on to another one. We have this modulo operation. Let's say print f modulo O. And if we do this, we'll find that the value is 1. So what is this value? This is the remainder of the division of 15 over 2. So 15 over 2 is 7, and 7 multiplied by 2 is 14. So the remainder is here 15 minus 14, which is 1. So the modulo operation here returns the remainder of the division of this number over that number of f over O. So basically 15 over 2. So here that prints the remainder of division f over O. As we can see here in this example, this is 15 over 2. So 15 over 2 would be 7.5. So remainder here is 0.5 multiplied by 2, which is 1. So that's why we have the result of 1 over 8. Okay, so let's also look at some bit more complex expression. Let's say we want to print f plus z, let's say f plus O multiplied by x, and find out the result. So the result here is 25. So f was 15 plus O here is 2, and x up there was 5. And we can find that the result here is 25. But why is it 25? It is 25 because here we have something called the operation precedence. So some operations have precedence over other operations. So for this expression, the multiplication operation will be evaluated first. So O multiplied by x, which is 2 multiplied by 5, which is 10. And then after evaluation of this part, we add the result to f. So here we have 15 plus 10. So that would be 25. This is really important to note because in some cases you might get an unexpected output. You don't know why it is that. So if you really intended to do f plus O and then multiply the result by x, then we can use parentheses. So You can just write down the same operation again, or the same expression again. But if we want to change the order, we need to do f plus 4 first. We need to enclose these into parentheses. So in this case, that would be 15 plus 2, and the result of that would be multiplied by 5. And let's see what would be the output. So that would be 85. So operation precedence is a very important thing to take into consideration. There are lots of tables that has the precedence of all operations of Python, so you can look it up on the official website, and you can find lots of resources about that as well to have the full precedence of all operations. Okay, so that was it for this video as a brief introduction to some of the programmatic approaches in Python or some of the statements in Python, and hopefully see you in the next video.